Thanks. I'll just very quickly introduce myself. My name is Lara Ratnaraja, and Mike might be the fifth person in Birmingham that got my surname right, so I'm quite impressed with that. I'm worked in the cultural sector in Birmingham for about 15 years, predominantly in the public sector as a funder, and now I'm reclaiming the word consultant because I don't really like labels and I can't work out what I do. But Mandy, please take a photograph of my mum so she does know what I do talk at things. Right, I'm going to start. I'm staying clothed for this, by the way. Just for the Race Relations Act 1976 was established by the Parliament of the United Kingdom to prevent discrimination on the grounds of race, colour, nationality, ethnic and national origin in the fields of employment, provision of goods and services, education and public functions. The Act incorporated earlier acts of 1965 and 68 and was later amended by the Race Relations Act Amendment in 2000 to include a statutory duty on public bodies to promote race equality and to demonstrate that procedures to prevent race discrimination are effective. And this was very influential. I came to England about 73, and my father worked for the Commission for Racial Equality, so I grew up around this act. The Equality Act 2010 brought together over 116 separate pieces of legislation, which formed the basis of anti-discrimination law in Great Britain, including the Equal Pay Act, the Sex Discrimination Act, the Race Relations Act, the Disability Discrimination Act, into one single act. The Act legally protects people from discrimination in the workplace and in wider society. It requires equal treatment in access to employment, as well as private and public services, regardless of the protected characteristics of age, disability, gender reassignment, being pregnant or on maternity leave, marriage and civil partnership, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. So we have legislative frameworks to prevent discriminatory practice in employment and the provision of public services, regardless of their effectiveness. And bodies such as the local authorities, Arts Council, the BFI, etc., have invested significantly in access programmes for artists and audiences with protected characteristics. So why still are artists with protected characteristics still so underrepresented in the arts? Why are audiences still so monocultural and unreflective of contemporary society? The use of language and culture continues to exclude and tag. Diverse, marginalised, disadvantaged are words that are used to seek inclusion, but also by default achieve exclusion. You become a black, queer or disabled artist. I am a South Asian cultural leader, apparently. I just thought I was from Solihull. I am from Solihull. Oh, cheer for Solihull there. There you go. That's two of us. The frameworks that seek to promote diversity are interventionist and generate from a cultural model of production that emanates from the centre, from the institutions who persist in a distribution model that uses an invitation in to view culture on their terms. The othering of difference means art is labelled as marginalised or outside the frameworks of culture that stem from white, heteronormative, patriarchal constructs. It relies still on a model of diversity, which was deemed necessary at the time of the Race Relations Act, but has no relevance in a contemporary, diverse, intersectional world. These frameworks need to evolve to be collaborative and not prescriptive on definitions of diversity and allow artists to self-define in their identity and practice. There needs to be a mutuality of respect and creative discourse so that cultural production is truly representative of a plurality of voices to reflect and challenge audiences and transform the artistic peer review culture, which also perpetuates a state of cultural hegemony. So we need a new narrative on diversity and cultural creation and engagement, one which is not based on allowing diverse artists in the well-meaning spirit of inclusion, but creates a narrative on inclusion which is not predicated on permission or an invitation, but on collaboration, equality of discourse and equity of diverse cultural value to allow for a fluidity and intersectional cultural ecology. It is imperative to maintain the freedom of expression that is intrinsic in artist-led and grassroots artistic contexts, but it's equally important that within these contexts there is a route in to engage in a mutual dialogue with the cultural mainstream to catalyse development in a plurality of artistic voices to wider audiences. To ignore this is to perpetuate social constructs within culture and to stifle voices that are already at risk of being further hidden in a wider political narrative. It is not acceptable that cultural institutions position themselves as the opposition to those who seek to eradicate voices of dissent and diversity, while simultaneously perpetuating a cultural bigotry. Thank you.
Thank you.